Greetings, this is Richard Nikoley, freetheanimal.com, and I'm back with yet another video and a different shirt than the one I did just an hour ago. Alright, so it's exactly midnight here in the south of Phuket, Thailand, which is known as Rawai, and I couldn't shut things down, because I've been obsessed with this idea for a video all day, and I'm gonna do videos about my father's. Well, I'm gonna do one about my dad too, but I'm gonna do one about my father's brothers and his sister, my uncles and aunt, right? There's one who came over. They all came over to the U.S. in 1952 from Bremerhaven in Germany, and they were all kids. The oldest one was Manfred. He passed away a long time ago, young, unfortunately. The rest still live. So I thought, I gotta get this out there to explain my love for my uncles and aunt, and of course my dad. I'll probably put him at the end just to irritate him. So Manfred is not here, but the next child down is Brigitte, the sister, the one sister, and she's still kicking. And then there is my father, Lothar, and next down from him is Hans, and then it's to Ingo, then Wolfgang, and then Uwe. Right? I'm gonna tell you what I love about each one of them. I'm gonna start with Pastor Hans Nikoley. That's my kickoff for this, right? And I have so much to say. I hope I don't make this crazy long. But Hans, the first time I became aware of my father's closest brother was, early, probably mid 1970s, right? Or no, mid 60s, I should say. I was born in 1961, right? And if you asked me, I would know since I was a young boy, what is the most characteristic thing about Hans Nikoley? It would be he loves coffee. Crazy. And so and my dad loves coffee too, but Hans is off the scale coffee lover. And and my family, they drink it black, no sugar, right? It's the way you drink coffee, right? Oh, wow. So some of my first recollections about Hans is where he and my dad, I'm probably 5, 6 years old, 7 years old or whatever, Reno, Nevada. And they would get together mid-morning, most mornings, and they would go to a cafe that has bottomless coffee. And they sit there at the table and chat with each other, right? And I have no idea, I couldn't recollect or recite any of their conversations ever. All I know is that I listened intently, and that I probably understood a lot, and probably some of the wisdom or experience they passed to each other sunk in enough that I didn't do do too bad in life. I'm going to keep this clean because my Uncle Hans is a pastor. So I'm going to keep this clean. Out of the respect and love I have for him. And I loved it so much. When I said, "Oh, I'm gonna go meet Hans for coffee here," and I was like, it was like Christmas. I wasn't in school, so it's like Christmas vacation or summer vacation or anything like that. And I always, or during those times, I always wanted to just always hang out with my dad. Whatever he's doing, wherever he's going, I want to tag along, right? Always. And so when he would say, "Okay, we're gonna go meet with Hans," it was like, yeah, right? I loved it. You're like, I always, as a child, I always loved to hang with the adults. I liked to hear them talk. So Hans was a real estate agent, and then a real estate broker when he got his broker's license. And I know he had some tough times during that era, but I think it really, and now I'm just saying what I think, what I observed, and how I kind of channel it, and why I have so much respect and adoration for Hans Nikoley. He did all the things that you have to do as a real estate person, agent or broker. You have to have the nice car. You have to dress nice every day. You have to use breath mints. It goes on and on and on. Because you always have to present. You have to be nice all the time. You're never confrontational. You're always trying to make the sale, right? And you are part of that process, right? It's showing the house and showing yourself. And he was good at it. He just always had this presence, right? I've never seen Hans Nikoley not looking good, not smelling good, not well coiffed, right? He looks always like a person you would like to have a conversation with, right? So he's a master at that, really. The other thing is he has such a engaging and welcoming, I suppose. That just popped in my head. Welcoming smile. He always smiles. I'm 61 years old. I don't know what the age difference is. My dad's 84, so Hans is probably at 80 or 81. I would guess. In all these years, he has never said a cross word to me. Never one. Never a disrespectful word to me. He still calls me Ricky sometimes, because that's what I went by when I was a little boy. But he's just been like an older man who has never been disrespectful to me, ever. Not one time that I can remember. I really can't. I can't remember him ever saying a cross word to me. And when we get together, and he knows that I'm not a believer in the religious stuff so much. Doesn't matter to him, right? He's kind and respectful, and we talk about mutual things we have interest in, which are many. So what happens is that one day Hans announces to the family that he's found this church that he really likes. He's the one who started it all. It's called the Evangelical Free Church, and it has it's an old building with the what is it, stained glass and everything. In a part of Reno proper, or within town. But they were in the midst of building a new church that's kind of suburban, some miles away, but suburban. And so Hans brings us to this, and I still remember it like the first day. I'm like, it was kind of cool. The pastor was a guy named Hugh Bronstead, I think from Texas, and his wife Hazel. Now, Hugh was not a particularly dynamic guy, but it was just cool. The environment was cool. I remember Hans, I forget what kind of car he had. I think it was like something like a Cutlass, and maybe it was purple. I don't know. That's what's in my head right now. But I was like, I said something to him about the church anyway, and they're driving away, he and his wife Mary, and Hans turns back to me. He says, "This is a church where you find Jesus." I still remember that to this day, and I didn't really even know where that was, and so the Evangelical Free is kind of a non-denominational, but rather conservative, kind of like Baptist, and so on, right? Maybe Southern Baptist, something like that, right? I could be corrected on that, but it was a pretty cool environment, and it wasn't long. It was some months, I suppose, where Hans announced he was closing down his real estate brokerage, and he was heading off to Hyles Anderson College now. So there's a guy called Jack Hyles, very dynamic preacher. I forget the name of the church, but it was Hammond, Indiana, and it even back then in the very early 70s. So it sported like, 30,000 members, something like that. Big church. And Jack Hyles was a very dynamic preacher. I mean, it was like every sermon was like watching a cool movie, right? Even as a kid, it wasn't so much the content as about the style and delivery. So they had a Hyles Anderson College. The church had a college for people who wanted to enter the ministry in various capacities, primarily as a pastor of a church, right? And it was like, these were like, back in those days, for those who were in it and listening to it, there's like all these guys, because of Jack Hyles, all these guys are like rock stars, right? It's a poor metaphor to use, I understand, but they're kind of like rock stars, right? And you would clamor. I saw Jack Hyles speak live in person, I don't know, a couple of times. I think it was in Sacramento, California, which is only a pop over the hill from Reno. And but Hans gets up, closes business. He and Ingo also, which is another one I will talk about, how I love Ingo. And there's some great stories there. He and I used to work together in the church, busing kids, right? I can't wait to tell that story. I can't wait to. And so Hans and Ingo, both. Ingo is not an engineer, but kind of close to an engineer. He does drafting for substations, power substations and everything. He quits his job at PG&E Pacific Gas and left. I think that's what it was. And they both head to Hamilton, Indiana, to, you know, get their degrees in, you know, divinity, one could say, right? And Ingo decided it wasn't for him, and he came back after a year. And Hans, nope, saw it all the way through. And then he came out back home after he got his degree, and he started a church. Well, no, he took over a church, I believe, in Turlock, California, right, in the valley, not far from Modesto, if you know about the area, and he ran that for a few years. This is not a criticism, but Hans did not end up being like the super hyper dynamic preacher that Jack Hyles was, but he's a hard worker, dedicated. I remember going there one time. It was in Turlock, and we went to some kind of event or something. I don't know whether it was bowling or, you know, some kind of activity for the whole church, right? And he's walking down the line of people, and he's handing out money from the tithing. He just had this total care about his church family. And, you know, it is like a parish priest kind of thing. Lovely to watch, right? And it makes me so sorry that I was so, when I decided I didn't want to believe anymore, I should have just left it at that instead of like being an asshole about, oops, there I did. Sorry, Hans. So sorry, Uncle Hans, I should say. And so I just should have left it at that rather than be like belligerent about it. And I was for a lot of years. I apologize to you all, to whom I was just egregious, right? And then Hans really, I think he got his stride. I know it's the very early '80s, because I went to his church in Poway, California, Southern California, just you know, up the road from San Diego. Beautiful place to live, everything cool. I remember I came down there. I freshly commissioned U.S. Navy officer, and I was in Coronado for SWO school, Surface Warfare Officer School, and so I knew we had the church down there. I was pretty new into it, I think, like not more than a few years, and part of the affinity of the whole thing is that there's a good number of military families were members of his congregation, because they have Marine Corps and Navy down there to the hilt in San Diego, right? So I went to his church a few times, respectfully, and I liked it, and you know, but it was just beyond me at that point in my life to really be. But I think I was respectful, and certainly came up and saw him a bunch of times, and attended attended services a number of times, and he had the perfect gig. You know, small church, I don't know, maybe 100-ish families, something like that, and he had a small, nice little house that was paid for by the church. The money was modest. He wasn't getting rich, but he had enough to survive. And his children, Matt and Kristen, were doing well, and Mary was helping out. And I think at a point they had a school too. I think maybe they did when they were down in Turlock. It's very important for folks of the church to make it something very, very familial, which is more important to me than ever. And in what I see in the world now, I understand how important it was for these folks like Uncle Pastor Hans Nikoley back in the 70s to not only have the gathering church for Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and Wednesday night, typically a midweek service, but to also have the school for the children. And you know what? It does not matter to me whatsoever that they profess ideologies that are not something I particularly embrace, but I appreciate them and I understand their importance, and keep on keeping on, right? Keep on keeping on with that. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back with the subject matter of my Uncle Pastor Hans Nikoley, and I thought I should add one other thing. As I said, Evangelical Baptist Church, his churches, both in near Modesto, Temecula, I think, or something, and then down in Poway, California, his churches are Baptist churches, more kind of conservative Baptist churches. And then some years back, it's probably a good while now, maybe 10 years, I suppose, where he left the church and sold his home and moved up to the Bay Area of California, where he has since been a professor in a Bible college. I don't know the details of what he teaches, but I know it's a highly regarded and college started by a big local church, which I forget the name of. I think they should pay, whatever they're paying him, they should pay him more. You're not going to get an argument. I'm not going to get an argument out of you, Uncle Hans. Am I about that? No. So that's what he's been doing. So keeping active, keeping productive, and staying in the ministry that he loves. It's 50 years now. I'm talking since about 1970. It's 50 some years, right? And he's been Johnny on the spot, go. Every day I've ever observed him. He's always ready to go, right? So anybody who has such a devotion to something that's good and wholesome, that deserves an accounting and a recognition of appreciation. It really does. So congratulations, Uncle. I want to talk a little bit about, my situation, right? Beyond where I became a non-believer. So for 20 years or so. So it's been about 30 years that I hung up the belief. Literal belief. But I have appreciation for what the goals are and what the values are and what needs to be done. And especially in these last few years, it has taught me that I was like so so wrong to be belligerent against it. Okay, if you believe or don't believe, fine, but these people are doing good work. They're doing good work for themselves and their wives and husbands and their children and their church and their local community. And we need more of it, a lot more of it. Please, I pray that that all of the churches of whatever denomination, I don't care. I pray that they all rise up and they all put their communities first. Okay, God too, but put the communities first. Just make sure it is because we need it. I mean, the world is to hell in a handbasket. I think I can say hell. Anyway, so my situation for the last 2 years is living in Thailand, which is a Buddhist religion and culture. As small Muslim, here, especially here in the south where I am. But the Buddhists are, they're cool. I've really grown to appreciate it. I appreciate how the people feel, and you think, okay, these are totally different ideologies. Jesus Christ here, Lord and Savior, Buddha, contemplative thing. Yes, it's different. I mean, there's no doctrines or anything you could point to, doctrines or catechisms that are identical. But if you dig deeper and you see the principles and you understand the principles and you understand the contemplation and the feeling and the concern and care about humanity and the desire to not be bad, right? In Christianity, you have judgment. In Buddhism, you have karma, right? What goes around comes around. So be careful, right? So it's funny. I like to go to temples. I often go to temples. I'm not a practitioner, but I go to temples and I appreciate. And everyone is different. And they're all over. They're ubiquitous, and many of the monks can speak English. And whenever I talk to one, inevitably, I think of Pastor Hans Nikoley. What do you think about that, Hans? Right? You know why? Because they smile. They have this inner peace. They exude this kind of attitude that everything will be okay. Trust in God, or trust in Buddha, or trust in Jesus, whatever it is for you. But these religions and contemplative ideologies around the world don't exist on islands. They exist because of humans who are all ultimately kind of the same. And so many humans want to be good people. And I think Hans Nikoley always struggled and wanted to be a good person. He wanted to be someone you would want to be around. And I still go back to his life as the real estate agent and real estate broker. I mean, it's kind of perfect in a way when you think about it. It's like, okay, he needs to sell a house, make money, get a commission and everything. But how does he do that? By being a consummate nice guy all the time. All the time. No exceptions, right? And that is the story of my life experience with my uncle, Pastor Hans Nikoley. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope the rest of the family watches it and does too.